Hey everybody and welcome to Work to Game. My name is Brian and this is going to be our introduction to the Gunbreaker for Final Fantasy XIV. What's important to note is the Gunbreaker is a tank. It's a fantastic addition to this game and I've enjoyed the time that I've had with it. And I say the time that I've had with it because this guide comes to you per request of many people within the workforce. I have not yet spent the time leveling it to 80, but people have asked that I take time at level 60 and really break down the basics of the job so you can get a good feel for how this plays together. So I wanted to do that today. Note that a full level 80 new player and controller guide will be on its way. But just like our last Samurai guide, we're going to go over the skills, we're going to go over the placement. If you are looking for more information on how to play this game with a controller, how I lay out my HUD and more, we've got that all in our controller guide playlist, as well as our ultimate controller guide. Both will be in the top links below, so be sure to check those out and let us know if you have any questions. We're really here to help, and I think playing with the controller in Final Fantasy XIV is one of the best experiences that an MMO can offer to date. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the skills, let's talk about the Gunbreaker, and let's talk about my layout and why I choose to do what I do. Obviously, this is just a recommendation. Use this and make it your own. So when playing this game with a controller, what you want to focus in on is making the game work for you, thus trying to make muscle memory the key to success. So let's say I pick on my Paladin. First, you're going to notice I've got Shirk, Interject, Arm's Length right here. I also have got Rampart, and I have a damage buff. So if I pick on Paladin, you'll notice I've got my damage buff. I've got Rampart. I also have Shirk, Interject, and Arm's Length all in the same spot. Same thing goes with my stuns. So this is important because it doesn't necessarily matter sometimes what the skill is called. It matters what it does. And so you'll notice that in my guides, I tend to obviously try to make those always in the same spot. It's not always going to work. There is definitely variation in the different jobs, all within the same role. So just keep that in mind. Same thing applies, let's say if I was playing a DPS. If I'm going to have a stun, I'm going to put stun in the same spot every time. And that just makes my life a lot easier. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. First, again, we always have my hotbar 3 up here. I would, again, plug the ultimate controller guide for how I set up my HUD and why I use kind of a third hotbar here. For players who might be finding this video and might not be aware, I'm not clicking on any of these. These are just to communicate cooldowns to me, like No Mercy. Sure, I've got it right here, but as I'm fighting, as I'm seeing my HP, as I'm in my wheelhouse of pain, as I like to refer to it as, I'm making sure that, hey, No Mercy is off its cooldown. Use it. Use No Mercy. And that's just going to be that. Same thing for Aurora, which I have access here. I just want to communicate that. And then my Royal Guard as well. So let's start actually with kind of my combos and more. I'm going to start though with Royal Guard. You'll notice that you get this at level 10. This is your tank stance. This is going to significantly increase enemy generation. If you're having a hard time as a tank, or maybe you're nervous of starting as a tank, note that Royal Guard should be on at all times. Now when you're in a 8-person party, maybe there's going to be another main tank, but you need to make sure you have access to Royal Guard. And since I'm not going to necessarily be toggling it on and off as necessary, you'll notice that here on my expand across hotbar that I've got it listed right there. So if I hold down the left trigger and then the right trigger, I can turn this on and off as necessary. And to highlight that, I do that and there we go. And now I've got Royal Guard on. So I can see that you want to see that symbol, especially when you're the main tank. That's going to help keep hate. And as long as you're hitting the enemies, you're going to pretty much stay at the top of the list. I have not seen issues with ripping hate from tanks as long as they're hitting all the enemies. So from just kind of a basics of tanking, just to kind of give you a heads up, these are what you want to know. So at level 15, you're going to learn Lightning Shot. This is going to deliver a ranged attack with a potency of 150. This is going to let you be able to hit enemies from afar. Now, at level 56, you're going to learn your Gap Closer Rough Divide. This is going to deliver a jumping attack with a potency of 200, and you get 2 charges. So it's got a charge time of 30 seconds, and it's going to stack up to 2 times, and I've got that listed right up there as well. So those are ways that you pull. Now, another pro tip from a tank, one tank to another, you run through the enemies, you hit them from afar. That's going to help generate hate initially. You have a Royal Guard on. You run past them so that way they turn to face you, and thus your DPS can work safely from the rear and the flank of the enemies, hopefully hitting their positionals so they can get their bonuses and more. So just kind of keep that in mind from a tank perspective. Then shifting over into the tanks, especially when you're doing add pulls. You have Demon Slice. This is going to be a level 10 ability. It delivers an attack with a potency of 150 to all nearby enemies, and then you follow that up with Demon Slaughter at level 40. This is going to deliver an attack with a potency to 100 to all nearby enemies, but if you combo it with Demon Slice, you're going to get a potency of 250, and it's going to add a cartridge to your power gauge, and that's what you see over here on the right hand side. You get those cartridges, it's going to let you execute more powerful moves, and that's kind of the main mechanic that the Gunbreaker has to deal with. Let's go ahead and stick with our left hand side over here. I've gone ahead and slotted my other abilities. Level 62, Bow Shock. This delivers an attack with a potency to 200 to all nearby enemies, and it's got a damage over time effect with a potency of 90 that's going to last for 15 seconds. Then you have Fated Circle. This is going to deliver an attack with a potency of 320 to all nearby enemies, but it's going to cartridge cost you 1. Thus, doing this combo is going to open this up, but that opens that up at level 72 for you. Then I've got Aurora. This is going to grant regen to a target. This is fantastic for you to be able to apply it to a friend in need, help out the healer, or yourself. This is going to have a recast time of 60 seconds, and it's learned at level 45. So kind of play around and keep that in mind. Then I've got Bloodfest. This draws etheric energy from the target, adding 2 cartridges to your power gauge with a 90-second recast time. And then I've got Nebula. This is going to be kind of a tank buster. This is a way that you can reduce damage taken by 30%. It's going to last for 15 seconds. It's learned at level 38. But if you notice that gnarly cooldown at 120 seconds, that's a 2-minute cooldown. Now, if you think about a typical dungeon run, though, especially, I know a lot of tanks might be nervous, especially with their cooldowns, about when to use them. You know what? If you're in a big pool, use it. Save your healer a little bit of stress by reducing a lot of that incoming damage that you're taking. But you can also pair this with Rampart to be able to apply an AoE damage reduction to all enemies. So all of a sudden, you're doing these really massive pulls, and guess what? You are just you're going to just mitigate so much damage by doing that combo, and your healers are going to love you. And if everybody's up and just doing just fine, you know what? They might be able to put out some damage too, and then the dungeon and everything goes faster. If you notice right over here on this side, this is my AoE Wheel of Pain. These are my AoEs. Left side, hold left trigger, AoEs. This is also cooldowns, massive amount of cooldowns that you can see here, going from 60 to 90 to 120 seconds. So you're going to see those over there listed for you as well. Up here at the top, we kind of already covered it, but Shirk, this is going to divert 25% of your enemy, your hate, essentially, to a target player member, basically the other tank, unless you want to troll. I recommend not trolling. You might get kicked out or get reported to to one of the mods. Anyway, then you have Interject. This is going to interrupt the use of a target action. Notice there's no damage as a part of it, but you can basically silence them if they're going to try to do something. And if you'll see the bars up at the top, it'll be flashing as they do the target action, that you know that you can use Interject to thus interrupt it, reducing damages, saving lives. Honestly, all good choices all around. Then we have Arm's Length. This is going to create a barrier, nullifying most knockback and draw in effects. It's going to last for 6 seconds. Then also, if you get hit, you're going to put a slow on the target that's a 20% slow, and that's going to last 15 seconds. There's no, it's outside of the gnarly cooldown of 120 seconds. There's no reason that you can't do that. Again, if you think of a typical dungeon run being, like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and if you're really geared, you can even drop that down further. It means you can use this a couple times, and it can end up helping, especially again in those AoE pulls. Now, let's look at our right side. This is the best side. Right side for the win. Sorry. Over here, I've got Keen Edge. This is going to be kind of what also kicks off a lot of your rotation here as a tank, your base attack. It's Keen Edge. It's a weapon skill. It's going to basically deliver an attack with a potency of 200. It's your level 1 skill. You'll always have this. Then you've got Brutal Shell. This is going to deliver an attack with a potency of up to 100. However, you combo that with Keen Edge, you're now going to have a potency of 300. So that's quite a substantial boost. Then it's also going to restore HP if done on the combo at 150. Plus, it's going to add a nullified barrier to you, equaling that of what was restored. So if you healed for 150, you now got a 150 shield. If you healed for 300, you got a 300 HP shield. Really cool. And that shield's going to last for 10 seconds. It's learned at level 4. Finally, you have in this combo, you've got Solid Barrel. Base attack potency is 100. However, you combo this with Brutal Shell and you're going to get a combo potency of 400. And this is going to also add a cartridge to your power gauge. The fastest way to fill up your cartridges and power gauges is right now doing this combo, because this is just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Only you get 2. This is still 1, 2, 3. And that's going to be that main combo, but you're going to get that barrel. And then what that does is it allows you to kick off a couple of skills here. Gnashing Fang or Brutal Burst Strike, excuse me. So Gnashing Fang is going to deliver with an attack with a potency of 450. It's going to act like a weapon skill in this case, even though it is instant. So just keep that in mind. Now it's going to use one of your cartridges, and this weapon skill does not share a recast timer with any other actions. So just keep that in mind. Then from here, you can go from Gashing to Savage Claw. This is going to deliver an attack with a potency of 550. This combo action is Gnashing Fang, so just keep that in mind. So you're going to go Bop Bop, and then eventually you'll finish it off with Wicked Talon. This is going to deliver an attack with a potency of 650. Combo action is Savage Claw. So for one charge, you get to do this whole new combo that is listed right here. The downside about going into the D-pad, which is what these skills use, is movement. So keep that in mind. If you're going to be moving, it might be just easier to pop off a Burst Strike, which is a 1 cartridge cost, and it's delivering attack with a potency of 500. This does not have a cooldown. This does have a cooldown right now of 29.4 seconds. Adjusting your skill speed and things like that should help reduce that even further, but honestly, we'll have to get into the math on that in the future videos. So, and then down here again, the last skill is Sonic Break. This is going to deliver an attack with a potency of 300. The additional effect is damage over time with a potency of 90. It's going to last 30 seconds. So with a recast of 58.8, you can see that a duration of 30 seconds means that there's just going to be some downtime on this skill, and Weapon Skills does not share a recast timer with any other action. So keep that in mind, level 54. So when you're starting out at level 60, you should have access to all of those actions I pretty much covered, with the exception of Bloodfest, Bow Shock, and Faded Circle. But I still went ahead and placed those there in future in the follow-up to this video, which I'll include a link when that's done in the description below. If you're discovering this, we'll dive more into any of these changes as they occur just by hitting level cap and doing the harder end content as well. Now, we kind of already covered it, but No Mercy here is an increased damage dealt by 20%. It's going to last 20 seconds, and it's a great, pretty fast skill at a recast of 60 seconds. So that means always have this on every time. Like every time this is on, put it on. Now, when it comes to the optimal way that you can increase your damage output, obviously try to pair this with your heaviest hitting skills. But just saying, as you're starting, as you're learning this job, just keep these things on you so you're overall increasing your DPS, and then look to help try to optimize your placement into your whole full rotation. Then you have Camouflage. This is going to increase your parry rate by 50% while reducing damage taken by 10%. It's going to last for 20 seconds. It's learned at level 6, and it's got a recast timer of 90. Then you have Rampart, also another 90-second recast. This is going to reduce your damage taken by 20 seconds. So, and this is shared. And so you can see here already, nice damage cooldown, really nice damage cooldown. You can really mitigate a lot. Then over here, I have Danger Zone. This has got a recast of 30 seconds. It delivers an attack with a potency of 350, and it's learned at level 18. Over here, I've got Super Boldy. Super Boldy. It's going to reduce your HP to 1, and it's going to render you impervious to most attacks. It's going to last for 8 seconds. Pop that off. You can see how that looks. If you want to give your your healer a panic attack moment, be sure to do that and not let them know. It's probably best to slot that with a macro if you're not in voice, just so they know that you're using it and that they need to get ready to heal. But it does make you, it's your invuln. It's like sometimes when things are going bad, you want to be able to really survive things. That's what you want to do. And it's got a really gnarly recast time of 360 seconds. So keep that in mind. Then you can see I got a couple other skills slotted up here that are higher level skills. Heart of Light. This is going to reduce magic damage taken by self and nearby party members by 10%. It's a nice little magic damage. So if they're doing magic abilities and casting spells, that's where that's going to come in. Then you have Heart of Stone. This reduces damage taken by a party member or self by 15%. It's going to last for 7 seconds. It has an additional effect that when targeting a party member while under the effect of Brutal Shell, aka Brutal Shell right here, that is going to actually undergo the effect of Brutal Shell as well. That effect is also granted to the target, and that's going to last 10 seconds. So you can apply the shield that this applies to you to somebody else by doing Heart of Stone on your target, otherwise doing it on yourself. Then you have continuation, something. Allows the firing of successful rounds with your gunblade. Gnashing Claw may be followed by Jugular Rip. Savage Claw may be followed by Adamant Tear. And Wicked Talon may be followed by Eye Gouge. We're going to cover those in a little bit more detail just in a second. Then, as we kind of teased it here with the expanded, let me jump into the 2s. I've got my Royal Guard. I've got Aurora again, just in case I'm over here. Pull in if I want to do it. I want to pop that off and heal myself a little bit. There we go. I've got Provoke. Provoke's in the same spot as all my other tanks. So again, if I want to pull that ability to myself, basically what it does is it gestures threateningly, places yourself on the top of the target's enemy list while gaining additional enemy. So, and enmity. And then I've got over here Rough Divide. This again is that gap closer. It's going to hit it for 200. It's got a charge 2. And it's going to recharge up to 30 seconds. So again, this is a wonderful off the global cooldown, excellent for weaving in as you attack, and just an additional potency boost there. Reprisal is reduces damage dealt by nearby by enemies by 10%. So this just makes them hit not as hard. It's great for big pools because this is an AOE. It's going to apply to anybody who is nearby you. I've got Low Blow, which is my stun. This is going to be my stun's always in this spot. Rain or shine or DPS or heal. Like if I can stun them, this is what, and that's where that's going to be. And then again, I have my lightning shot. This is that ranged attack. It's going to increase that hate. So that's also really good when starting out and you're running towards the enemies to pull them with that, to gap close and then all of a sudden do a couple AoEs and you're golden. You're going to be king of the hate shards. So let's go ahead and now take a little bit of time, go into my actions and traits and talk about some of the skills that are not slottable to your hotbars. So let's go ahead and start with Blasting Zone. This delivers an attack with a potency of 800. It's learned at level 80. This is basically being upgraded from your Danger Zone mastery. So you see here, Danger Zone, highway to the Danger Zone. You've got your Blasting Zone, and that's where that's going to be applied. Then you can see here, Jugular Rip. Delivers an attack with a potency of 260. Basically, I'm thinking this is from Gnashing Fang. So that is essentially a nice little boost. So it says delivers an attack with a potency of 450. Jugular Rip delivers an attack with a potency of 260. Can only be executed when ready to rip and cannot be assigned to the hotbar. Adamant Tear delivers an attack with a potency of 280. And then you've got Eye Gouge delivers an attack with a potency of 300. So essentially, I think this is allowing you to combo those abilities into that, thus adding even in more damage. Again, I'm not level 80. I just wanted to show you this as this introduction so you know what to expect as you get closer to that. Again, like I said, this was per request. You all asked for this. You've also asked me to do this same thing for Dancer. I'm still working on my Astrologian, and also be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get those notifications that I put out when I do polls as to what I should level next. I thought this might be an interesting idea to sit down, kind of basically learn the base level of it, because as people start to try it out, they were really feeling lost and wanted something of a layout for a controller. So if you like this, let me know, and that's something we might do going forward, especially as new jobs are introduced. I'm doing this because it's just taking us so long to be able to get anything out for the Gunbreaker and for the Dancer. And so if you like it, great, let me know. If you hate it and you absolutely want me to wait till I'm level 80 and have all of that experience, let me know, because this is for you guys at the end of the day. That's all this is. I really want you guys to enjoy this game, have the absolute most fun that you can have, and that gives me joy. Like everybody who's sitting here and when they tell me that they were about to quit the game and then they saw a controller guide, or they learned something that they didn't know they could do, and that I was able to help teach them, that makes me so happy. So that's going to be where I leave you guys for this today. I'm going to keep playing this after we'll have to do a poll as to what I focus in on, and you guys can let me know if Gunbreaker's like next, if I take this to 80. But for Work to Game, my name is Brian. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys very much, and I hope that you have the best day ever. And if this, like I said, has been help, hit that like button, share this out with your friends, so that way they can check out this job, or they can check out any of our other jobs that we have in our Controller Guides playlist. But I'm going to leave it there, guys. Hope you'll have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.